Hey guys, welcome to You Need to Stretch, Can Stretch with Steve. Today, our focus is going to be on the squat. So I hope to get through kind of a full functional range conditioning protocol that will hit ankles, knees, and hips in ways that will help us sink deeper into our squat. All right, and the way that we're going to do this is we're going to start off with some cars. We're going to do some pails and rails, and we'll hopefully get to some passive range holds and passive range liftoffs for all those joints, and then integrate it back into the squat. So here's our Kin Stretch squat series. So first, I want to start off with some ankle cars, and I'm going to do these from either sitting on the ground or sitting on the edge of my couch. All right. And I'm going to always try to mimic squat positions of adjacent joints while I'm doing cars for particular joints. So for my ankle, I'm going to hug my knee to my chest, and I'm going to go slowly through my ankle car, trying to sit up nice and straight during this. Making sure to move my ankle and not my knee. Why am I hugging my knee to my chest while I do this? If you notice, my right leg now looks like I'm in a really deep squat, right? When you're in a really deep squat, your knee would be up higher towards your chest. And I'm going to squeeze my hip flexor and my knee flexors to help me get there. I'm reversing my ankle car. We're just going to do 3 each way. So a little active position of the hip and the knee joint, holding me up in this position while I do my ankle car. Good. Switch sides, 3 on the other side each way. All right. So when I squat, my hip tends to be a little bit wide. So I'm going to try to keep it a little bit wide here when I do my ankle car. And now it's hard for me to get feedback on whether my knee is actually rotating, but I can still feel my shin bone. And if I feel that rotating back and forth, that's how I'll know that my knee is rotating and not just my ankle. And we don't want the knee to rotate during ankle cars. We want to keep it stable. Good. So that's 3 cars each way. All right, the knee car, again, you can do it from the ground. I'm going to show it here sitting on the couch. I want to take my hip joint and put it into a lot of flexion. And now I want to take my ankle joint and hold it in the dorsiflex position, because that's what position it goes into when I do my squat. All right. Knee joint, internal rotation, extend, external rotation, flex. Internal, extend, external, flex. All through tension, squeezing that hip joint to help keep that up high. Reverse. Going 3 each way. Make sure you're not rotating through the hip. Make sure you're trying to hold that ankle in dorsiflexion. Good. Switching sides. All right. Hip is up high. I'm activating my hip flexors. I am activating my dorsiflexors. I'm going to internally rotate the knee. Extend, externally rotate, flex. Internally rotate, extend, externally rotate, flex. Try not to lose that hip flexion as I do this. Reverse directions. It's 1, 2, 3. Cool. Shake that out. All right. Now, how can we do a hip car to mimic a squat? I'm going to choose to do it from a side lying position, right? Full hip car from a side lying position. And I'm going to use some blocks here as markers and a pillow to rest my head on. 2 pillows to rest my head on. All right, so that my spine stays neutral. All right. The block behind my back is there to make sure that I don't move my back during this. All right, because the back should stay relatively neutral during the squat. When I'm here, notice the position I have put my body in. If I was to be standing on my feet, I'd be in the squat position. All right, I'm going to stabilize here, squeeze this block, full hip car, right hip flexes, externally rotates, internally rotates, extend but don't fall backwards, drop it down, back up to flexion, extend, up, externally rotate, flex, back down. Notice I'm trying to keep my knee flexed and trying to keep my ankle dorsiflexed. If you're new to this, I suggest you take it even slower than I'm going right now. I'm keeping it a little bit speedy just so we can get through everything that I'd like to get through today. One more. That hip is working hard. You know, some people like to do what they call activation exercises before they do a compound movement like a squat. I don't think that there's really anything better than a car to kind of get in touch with the hip joint and see what an activation of the hip actually feels like. So you can definitely use these as quote unquote activation movements as well. I'm going to flip over here so you can get a different angle and see me from the back. All right. You'll see I'm going to put this block right behind my back. I'm going to try not to knock it over. Again, I go back into my squat, my side lying squat position. Dorsiflexion and knee flexion. This would be even more effective if I had something to latch onto. This couch is quite light, but something heavy to latch onto. I'm doing this with a relatively high intensity. So this is my warm-up, about 50 to 70% irradiation, maybe more like 50 to 60. Moving that hip joint through a lot of tension, feeling the musculature around it light up. Good. All right. We just did our cars of all 3 joints that are majorly involved in squatting. So now I want to do tails, rails for all 3 of those joints that are involved in squatting. And we'll do this starting with the bottom up, the ankle joint first. So for my ankle joint, I'm going to choose to do a bent knee tails rails. All right, from the combat base position. All right, Alexa, set timer, 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
So this combat-based position is like a squat position, but for a single leg, and this leg's just hanging out. You'll notice I put a little block under it. You put a pillow under it, anything that kind of feels better. If you have any knee flexion or ankle plantar flexion issues, you might have to adjust like this. All right. For the stretch, we want to feel a stretch down here, all right, by my Achilles. And I'm trying to drive the knee forward towards the couch. I can do that with my hand, giving it a little pressure here, helping it, guiding it along the way. But I feel a great stretch here. Now it's my job to breathe and keep holding that stretch. While I'm doing this, I got to make sure that my heel stays planted on the ground, just like it would for a proper barbell back squat or something like that, or a front squat even. You know, any variety of squat. Most people are squatting with their heels on the ground. All right, and we're trying to stretch out that calf, so it will help stretch out the Achilles and the calf by keeping the heel on the ground. All right, first part of the pails and rails protocol is to find the stretch and hold it there for about 2 minutes. All right. Second, pails contraction. Pails contraction is simply activation of the stretched tissue. So it would be activation of my Achilles, all right, or my calf. And I do that by pressing down into the floor with the balls of my feet. And I'm going to slowly ramp up the amount of pressure that I'm pushing down with. So I'm going to start from 0 and work my way up to my safest, greatest pressure, or 100% of what I can give today. Still just hanging out here until Alexa tells me that it's done. Alexa, timer stop. All right, pails contraction. Let's slowly push the balls of our feet down into the floor, activating that stretched tissue. And let's slowly start ramping up the amount of pressure we're pushing down with. A little bit more. Start pressuring up until you reach your safest, greatest pressure. You should get there in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sustain that. Your Achilles should feel like it's really working here. We're going to hold here for 10 seconds, and then we're going to do our rails contraction. That's contraction of the exact opposite tissue, which would be the front part of the shin, to try to pull us deeper into the stretch. Ready? Go. Activating the front part of the shin, activating the top part of the foot. This should increase the stretch sensation in the Achilles. I'm also guiding and driving my knee forward as much as I can. Squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. Come on, harder. Really fire that musculature in the front part of the shin and top part of the foot. Try to squeeze more dorsiflexion out of it. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax. Alexa, set timer 1 minute.
1 minute, starting now.
This final minute is just a passive stretch. Theoretically, we should be deeper into our ankle stretch. We're going to hold here for another minute and just let this tissue relax into this newfound range of motion. Breathing. During the passive stretch period, you're really trying to breathe, really trying to relax into positions. Exhales can help with that. Almost there. Once we're done, we'll get a chance to stand up and walk out of it. It's not the most comfortable position to hold for this long. Alexa, timer off. Woo! Good. Come on out of that. Let's shake it off. All right. That is one set of pails and rails. 4, ankle dorsiflexion. And remember, the reason why I chose to do pals and rails for ankle dorsiflexion is because we need our ankle to dorsiflex in order for us to be able to squat properly. All right. You can also certainly do pals and rails for ankle plantar flexion. All right. But in this case, we're working on dorsiflexion. All right, I'm going to switch sides. I don't want this block under me. That's actually more uncomfortable. And I'm going to go into dorsiflexion on this side. So you'll notice my heel is elevated a little bit on this pink mat. All right, not ideal, but not the worst thing in the world. Alexa, set timer 20. Alexa, set timer 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
All right, so I'm slowly inching into this stretch. And remember, I'm in this combat base position to try to mimic squat positions. So I can also give a little contraction to my hip flexors or my knee flexors to help push me deeper into that squat position, which may help me get even deeper into this Achilles stretch that I'm looking for. Remember, we got our 2-minute hold here, and then we'll start our pals and rails contraction. All right. Today, we are ramping up to our safest, greatest pressure for these pals rails. Other times, when you're doing pals rails, you don't always need to ramp up that much. It depends on what you're looking for. Right now, what we're technically doing is strength training. And people strength train at around 70 to 90, 95% of their max effort. Or even sometimes their max effort. So that's why we're ramping up to our safest, greatest pressure today, is because we are really trying to force and drive change in the joint, increase range of motion. Remember, mobility is partially strength and partially flexibility. Make sure you keep finding that stretch. Our pals contraction is going to be to push the balls of the feet into the floor, or think about activating our calf. Our rails contraction is going to be to try to lift the balls of the feet off the floor. I think about activating the front part of our shin or top part of our foot to help close the ankle joint even more. Alexa, timer stop. All right, pals contraction. Let's activate. Start pressing down slowly, lightly, and we start ramping up 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, and now your safest, greatest pressure. Activate that tissue in the back part of your calf, in that Achilles area. Push, 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 irradiate through the body. In 5 seconds, we go to rails. 5, 4, 3, 2, rails. Squeeze the front part of the shin, top part of the foot. Help pull that knee more forward into your ankle dorsiflexion. Squeeze it. Also, you can think about activating hip flexor, knee flexor to help sink and push even deeper in. Breathe, squeeze. This is hard. This is hard. Feeling a big stretch in my calf. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Alexa, start timer 1 minute.
1 minute, starting now.
Breathe, relax into this newfound range of motion. Next up, we're going to work on some knee flexion pals rails. Alexa, timer off. Whew. All right. Let's shake that out. All right. So normally when I work knee flexion, pals, rails, I do it from the couch stretch position. Today, I'm actually going to combine it into hip flexion, pals, rails. So we're going to do kind of a compound pals, rails here. All right. And we're going to do it from our back. And what this is going to look like is going to more mimic the squat position. All right. So if we lie on our back and we hug our knee to our chest, all right, breathe. Try to make sure that both butt cheeks are even on the ground, the very top part of the butt. Alexa, set timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
All right, so what we want to try to stretch here is under here. All right. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we're not just rounding our spine excessively to get there. All right, because at the bottom of the squat, we try to avoid the butt wink as much as we can. All right. But some of it occurs, but just don't lose spinal stability when you're in this position. Focus on working that hip joint and that knee joint. So right now, we are bringing the knee into the chest, creating some hip flexion, but we're also creating some knee flexion, all right? And actually, I'm going to set my foot here in this dorsiflex position to also mimic that squat position. Pals contraction is going to be to try to extend the knee and push the leg down so that it's next to my other leg, okay? But remember, it's an isometric, so that's not going to happen. Our arms are going to win. Rails contraction is going to be to try to pull the knee up closer to the face and to try to pull the heel closer to the butt, all right, creating a deeper squat position. For right now, just breathe. I can already feel myself being able to sink a little bit deeper into this without rounding the spine, the lumbar spine excessively. Alexa, stop timer. All right, make sure we got a tight grip on our shin. And let's start to activate that stretch tissue behind the butt and hamstring. And we're trying to straighten out the leg and pull the knee toward, or straighten out the leg and get the heel down on the floor next to the other heel. My hands are getting a little slippery as I push here. Push, 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 push. In 10 seconds, we'll go to our rails contraction and try to pull it up closer towards the chest. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails contraction. Try to pull it up. I'm just going to let go here and really make myself work. Try to keep it there. Try to bend the knee. I'm firing this hamstring up. Bring the knee close towards the face. And relax. Woo. So, try to get deeper into that stretch right now. Alexa, set timer 1 minute.
1 minute, starting now.
Ooh. All right, so I want to do another set of pails rails here, see if we can get this down a little bit better. Think about movements this time. So during your squat, if you were in the bottom of the squat, you would get up by trying to press the leg like that. That's your pails contraction. You would sink down to the squat by trying to do this action. That's your rails contraction. Okay? So let's try to do it that way. Thinking about it that way might help you find the right tissue to activate. Since this is a compound pails rails, it can be a little bit confusing. Just breathe. Finish off these final seconds of the passive stretch. Enjoy it. Alexa, cancel timer. And pails. Slowly ramp up. Try to push down next to your other leg. Keep ramping, keep pushing, keep ramping, keep pushing for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Rails contraction. Really squeezing that rails tissue. Hamstring and hip flexor, hamstring and hip flexor, hamstring and hip flexor, hamstring and hip flexor. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And just try to pull it back up in that passive stretch. Alexa, set timer 30 seconds.
30 seconds, starting now.
Remember, I'm trying to keep that ankle and dorsiflex position. That's also difficult to do because my shin's getting tired. Oh, my whole leg is burning. But when you spend a lot of time under tension, that's how you create change. Alexa, cancel timer. Ooh, man. So like the front part of my hip right here, definitely feeling a lot of that. Back part of my knee, feeling a lot of that. All right, we're gonna stand up, shake it out, and then we'll get into the other side. So it definitely helped me with the pails rails when I started thinking about actions. So if I'm standing here and I'm in the bottom of a squat, pails contraction is going to be to try to go there. Rails contraction is going to be to try to lift up higher and bend the knee more. That should help you guys out here. All right. Let's do other leg. Again, we're going to do 2 sets of pails rails here for the knee and the hip. So it's a compound pails rails, 2 joints. All right. Alexa, set timer 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
All right. So starting off in our pails rails, we want to make sure we're not leaning to one side. We want to make sure that our low back isn't excessively pressed into the ground. All right. We want to feel that hip joint being pulled on. We want to breathe and relax into it, allowing for that knee to glide higher up towards the face. We can also talk about angles here. If you happen to squat with your knee more in, like this, then that's where you should do your pails rails. If you happen to squat with the knee more out like this is probably where you should do pails rails for this. All right. Also, before you do pails rails for flexion in the hip, you should always check rotation. Rotation, you'll get more bang for your buck out of when you're starting off kin stretch or functional range conditioning. Probably got about 30 seconds left here in this position. Keep breathing, keep trying to sink deeper. I try to hold my pelvis stable by kind of increasing anterior tilt and no hip hike. Remember, pals, contraction is going to be to try to push the leg straight. Alexa, cancel timer. Pals, contraction, ready, go. Try to push that leg straight, push that leg straight. Slowly ramp up the amount of pressure that you're pushing into your hands with. Try not to let them slip. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Rails, contraction, rails, 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 rails. Squeeze, squeeze, fire up that hamstring, and fire up that hip flexor. Try to bring it closer, closer, closer. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and relax. See if you can get deeper into that passive stretch. Alexa, set timer 1 minute.
1 minute, starting now.
You got 1 more minute hold in this passive stretch, and then we're gonna get into our last set of pals rails for hip flexion, and then we'll try some passive range holds and maybe some integrative stuff for the squat. So in this position, I can definitely feel my torso rotating a little bit. Right? You know, doing this at home is a little bit more challenging. In the gym, you kind of have like some squat racks or rigs to hold on to that aren't going to move, and you can always use them to kind of anchor your body against. So, or another way to do this is if I had my foot on the side of a door, then that could be the passive way to get my hip in this position, as opposed to me hugging it, which has its flaws. Alexa, stop timer. All right, pals contraction, start to push down, go. 20, 19, start ramping up. 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and rails. Squeeze it up, squeeze it up, squeeze that heel to that butt. Squeeze that knee to that chest. Come on, fire those muscles. Fire, 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 fire. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Squeeze, squeeze, hold it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Alexa, start timer 30 seconds.
30 seconds, starting now.
So the good part about pals and rails is even if you're not in touch with the tissue that you're supposed to activate, and you just try to do the best you can and activate around that musculature, you're still spending a whole lot of time in these positions. And time under tension is a hugely important variable in creating change in the body. Alexa, stop timer. So, I believe that just spending time in a position is a whole huge first step in creating change. So if you are a beginner and you're having trouble feeling these specific tissues work, that's okay. You're not wasting your time. spending the time in a position and just trying to activate and figure it out is a huge first step. All right, we got 9 minutes here. I want to finish off with some passive range holds. All right, let's start from the top here. And we're going to do a passive range hold for hip flexion. So I'm going to put my foot up on my windowsill. And actually, this will be better for a passive range lift off. So right now, I am pretty high up or pretty deep into my hip flexion ability while keeping a relatively neutral spine. What I would do is I would just kind of hold and hang out here for about 30 seconds, get a feel of this. And I'm going to think about the rails tissue that I just activated. So that's hamstring trying to bend the knee and hip flexor trying to lift the leg up. And I'm going to fire that tissue. 3, 2, 1. And you saw when I did that, this was able to come up a few inches, not even, maybe an inch, all right, a few centimeters. This is called a passive range lift off. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just doing reps of something at the end range or the hardest position to be in. This is a lot of bang for your buck to help increase strength. Here, again, lift off, 3, 2, 2. Breathe. We're going to do 5 of these. Hold it, 3, 2, 3. Try not to have a tendency to shove your hip out that way. Try to hold things square. 3, 2, 4. One more. 3, 2, 5. Come on out of it. So again, a nice part about doing this like in a gym setting, this would be even easier to accomplish because I would have a squat rack or a rig that I'd be wrapping my hands around. Here, I don't have anything to help me kind of balance out and to produce or push off of, to produce force off of. So it becomes a little bit more challenging, but again, still doable. Things don't have to be 100% perfect for you still to get an effective workout in. All right, so I'm hanging out here. I'm thinking about my musculature surrounding my hip, thinking about what the rails tissue is. That's going to be the hip flexor and the hamstring trying to lift up and bend more. You know, honestly, I'm even doing my rails tissue of my ankle too. All right, so there's kind of like a compound movement. All right, 3, 2, 1, lift. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Regather, regroup, and go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 2. So if you're able to lift this leg like a foot in the air, you're not doing true end range training, and you're probably wasting some energy just getting it to end range, so you're not effectively training that end range. So I would suggest elevating your foot more to bring you closer to that end range if you can move your leg a lot. Lift, 3, 2, 3. 3, 2, 4. One more. 3, 2, 5. Woo. Shake it out. Good. All right. This last thing that I want to try is going to be knee flexion. All right. So I'm starting here in my kind of child's pose, pseudo child's pose, and I'm going to spread my knees actually so I'm more in a squat position. All right. I'm also going to bend or dorsiflex my ankles here so I'm more in a squat position. And here, I'm just going to try to do a passive range lift off with knee flexion. So I'm going to start right leg and squeeze. 3, 2, 1. You see how that toe came slightly off the ground. Again, 3, 2, 2. Notice I'm trying not to tilt or rock side to side. Again, 3, 2, 3. Again, 3, 2, 4. And last one, 3, 2, and 5. Good. Other side. I hope I don't have any holes in my shorts. Left leg, ready, lift. 3, 2, 1. So I'm focused on my hamstring. That's the rails tissue. Lift. 3, 2, 2. Lift. 3, 2, 3. Actually want to point my foot like that and externally rotate my knee. This is going to help me with a weakness of mine. Lift. 3, 2, 4. It'll help target that outer hamstring a little bit more. Lift. 3, 2, 5. So if I go here versus here, I'm going to work inner versus outer hamstring. All right. Let's finish off here with some kinetic stretching squats. All right. So this is where we use the rails tissue to pull us deep into our squat, and then the pals tissue to push us out of our squat. So we're not just dropping down into it. I suggest getting a block, squeezing it, irradiating as hard as you can. And we're going to do 5 of this. Going down, we should feel hip flexors, hamstring or back of knee, and front part of shin pulling us down. Coming up, we want to feel butt, quads, calves. Here we go. Slow. Pull down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 2. Up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 2. Down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 3. Up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 3. Down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 4. Up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 4. Down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 5. That squat for me felt super good, super easy, no restrictions, no tightness. I gotta start doing more of my own squat classes, all right? Because then once you get under some weight, it makes movement so much easier. Great job today. Thank you for joining me for stretch class. Kin stretch squat focus. I hope you guys have a great day. See you next week.